Hello, this is my first time on Facebook Live, so if there are any technical errors, then just bear with me this evening. It's great to be on. It's lovely to be invited by Jackie to be part of the Positively Empowered Kids celebration of teachers, celebration of you all, which is just awesome. My name's Suneta Bagri, and I am the founder of the Every Teacher Matters project. I'll start by telling you just a little bit about what the project is. So, the project exists to raise the profile of well-being of teachers, educational staff, anybody in, hi Jackie, anybody in education that actually, needs to prioritize their own well-being, because let's face it, there's just not enough happening in education to raise the profile of how brilliant teachers, support staff, and everybody that works in schools are. So really, the whole point of the Every Teacher Matters is to be able to say, we are awesome, we are teachers, and we are awesome. And not many people are shouting out loud about us, but I promise you all that I am one of those people that is doing that. So it's great to be in the community of like-minded people such as Jackie and her colleagues that are working on this wonderful project. So let me tell you a little bit about what the project consists of. So I've talked to you about why it exists. It's around raising the profile of teacher wellbeing. And how I do that is through wellbeing coaching. I do that through wellbeing, through personal development workshops. I do that through mindfulness teaching and through wellbeing webinars and just general like live sessions in schools. And I miss doing live sessions in schools because right now we haven't really, we haven't got that opportunity. So I have been doing some webinars instead. And I also train through mental health first aid training. So coaching, workshops and training. And then the other aspect of it is the Wellbeing Network, the Every Teacher Matters Network, which has grown over the last year. I celebrate the launch of it, which will be a year next week. We have our first academic year event taking place this Thursday, which I am really, really excited about because the event has two absolutely phenomenal speakers. We have Chris Misselbrook, who is a secondary school teacher, who's going to talk to you about the reality of burnout. What happens when we don't listen to ourselves? What happens when we ignore all the signs and all the symptoms that are telling us we're not operating at our optimum, we're not operating at our best? And when we keep ignoring those and we keep continuing to ignore those, then eventually and inevitably we burn out. So he's going to talk to you about what happened to him, what he went through, and share a very, very personal story, which I know you are going to find really inspiring if you attend. And we also have Julia Mitchell, who has been in corporate for a long time. She's not a teacher, but she's going to talk about workplace pressures, stress, very similar to her journey and what she went through before she qualified as a Tai Chi instructor. And she will be teaching a 30-minute session of Tai Chi online, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So I know that Jackie's going to post the links to the event in the comments, and if you would like to join us on Thursday, you would be most welcome. We would be, welcome you with open arms. The network is growing, and we have got people joining us on a daily basis, and we've got a closed members group as well on Facebook. So that's a little bit about what's coming up for this week and the Every Teacher Matters network. Now, the opposite of burnout, that's what I want to talk to you about, because the opposite of burnout is self-care. When you care about yourself, when you take notice of those signs, of those symptoms, of that inner voice, when you start to think about all of those things, then you're going against burnout, which is exactly what you want to be doing. You don't want to be heading towards burnout. You want to be staying well. And I'm sure you're thinking, how are we supposed to do that in this, COVID pandemic? I can only appreciate, and you have my full respect for the burdens that you are facing and the challenges that you are facing. I might not be in the classroom right now, but I have been, been in education for 20 years, and over the last 4 years I was a head teacher. So I led in really challenging circumstances, although I cannot proclaim that I've led a school during this pandemic, but I do speak to fellow colleagues on a daily basis, and I'm well aware of the challenges that that you guys are facing, and teachers that I coach are coming to me also on a regular basis. So I have got a good understanding of what's going on. And I come from a place where I advocate that our responsibility is, our well-being is our responsibility. And I hold that firm belief that that is our responsibility. And whilst we do work for employers, and our head teachers and our senior leadership teams have a responsibility and a duty of care towards us, we have a responsibility towards ourselves first and foremost, 100%. And really to show up for ourselves, to be our best selves, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to take to self-care like we are obsessed, like it is, we are passionate. If we're passionate, if you want to be passionate about anything, be passionate about your self-care as teachers, because that is what will serve you well. That is what's going, they're the tools that are going to help you, fight and defend these challenges that you're going to face. So to be our best selves, first and foremost, remember it's for you. When you are, that old analogy of the gas mask, when you put that gas mask on yourself first, you can look after everybody else around you. But when you're not looking after yourself, then everybody suffers, whether it's your family members, whether it's the children at school that you teach. So take to self-care like you are truly, truly obsessed. And it is really, it's just common, and it's just the way that it goes, that when we need to look after ourselves the most is often the time when we find it the hardest to do. And we get busy, and surely with everything that you guys are dealing with in school right now, with working in bubbles, and keeping social distance, trying to fill gaps of children's learning right now that have appeared over this long break that they had. So you've got a really, really tall order there. But again, I'm repeating a message that I already have. You might not feel that you've not got time, and you know what? It becomes a bit of a story. And I am going to be a bit, a bit straight talking and straight down the line with it. It's a story we tell ourselves. I've been there too. I used to tell that story to myself. I don't have the time. I don't get time. I don't get time. I don't get time to eat. I don't get time to do this. I don't get time to exercise. I don't. And that will continue happening if that's the story we keep telling ourselves. But like I said, if you want to avoid burnout, nobody wants to go off sick. Nobody wants to come out of a profession unnecessarily. If you're a teacher and you've gone into it with your moral compass intact, you've gone in it because you want to make a difference to children's lives, the only way that you're going to do that is if you care about yourself first. So lots of repetition, because I just feel I can't share that message with you enough. It really, really is important. So Jackie will post in the links a PDF here, which is my top tips for self-care. And I produced this, believe it or not, ironically, this was a gift that I gave to all the members that came to the network meeting in January at the beginning of the year, when I had no clue that the pandemic was, knocking on our doors just a few months later. So a little bit ironic, but perfect for me to be able to pull this out today and say, I really mean this. If there was ever a time for you to take note of self-care, then this is it. So I'm going to just read through some of the points here, raise some of the points that I think are absolutely essential for you to take note of when you're looking after yourself. So being part of a community and having positive relationships. Now, positive relationships and being part of a community is something that you can absolutely achieve in your school context. If you're in a school that supports your well-being, that provides a space such as the staff room, where you can come together, although I appreciate that might look different right now, you might be in your bubbles, but a safe space where you can socialize and talk and get some downtime and speak to like-minded colleagues, where you can share your woes, share your troubles, share your joys, talk about the great experiences that you've had in the classroom, or just talk, then brilliant. But if you don't have that community at school, you're going to find the job of being a teacher even harder. So do make sure that you are part of a community somewhere. For some people, that's being part of a religious group. For some people, it's being part of a gym, going to the gym or doing an exercise class. For some people, it's having a social circle of friends. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a community that feels right for you. And if you haven't got that community, of course, join us at the Every Teacher Matters Network. That's what we are here for. So calling, your friends, volunteering your time. I know teachers don't have a lot of that, but it all feeds back into you feeling good about yourself. So look up opportunities where you can find those moments where you're going to just escape from the norm and just have time to switch off and be you and have some fun. The second point is sleep and rest. So important to get a good night's sleep. And if you haven't got a good night, teachers often talk about not getting a good night's sleep because they're thinking about the next thing and what they're going to be doing next, and then we've got to wake up and they've got the planning to do, they've got the classroom to set up, they've got the photocopying to do. I do recognise it, I do. But you have to prioritise rest and you have to prioritise your sleep. And for some people, that almost means putting a set of rituals in place before bedtime occurs. So whether that's lavender oil in your diffuser, whether that's having a hot bath, whether that's doing some meditation, whatever feels right to you, because your well-being, only you are in control of that. So, we actually need an average of between 7 and 9 hours sleep a night. So really important that you do aim to get a really good night's sleep, because teaching is, you have to perform all the time. You're on the go, and it's hard to sustain unless you get good rest. Find ways, and I know again these are all, these aren't, I'm not saying any of these are easy, but I am saying you have to do them. I am saying that you need to do them to be able to cope, to be able to not just cope. We don't want to just cope, do we? We want to thrive. We want to thrive in our jobs as individuals. So find ways to balance your workload with the priorities in your life. So if you're constantly obsessing about your work, that's just going to be an undercurrent of stress just starting to eat away at you. So if you're constantly talking about work, if you're constantly obsessing about the workload, then that's not going to serve you very well. So ensure that you make conscious effort to completely shut off from work, so that you're balancing all the good things in your life, whether that's time with your loved ones, whether that's time to just chill and watch TV, time to go out for a meal. So similar to the first one, but the first one's, what I mentioned was very much about being part of a community. This is just switching off and having you time. So you're balancing those pressures that the teacher standards bring against rewards. So you're constantly it's like having a trade-off in place, work hard, play hard. It's a great motto. In line with this, give yourself credit and reward. Make sure that you're acknowledging the good things, because if you're not careful, that inner critic, it will play havoc, and we become very unconsciously unaware of this inner dialogue, again, this story that we tell ourselves. And if you're not taking time out to really acknowledge the good things, to praise yourself, to say, oh, that was a good job done, or that was a tough day, but I got through that, I did really well. If you're not giving yourself a pat on the back consistently, and you need to get into the habit of doing this, then that inner critic takes a hold, and that's dangerous territory. So give yourself credit for even the smaller things that you do. And it can honestly be like, I had 2 litres of water today. Just 1 litre, even 1 litre, right? If you're a teacher, I know, I get it. but just making sure that you're rewarding yourself and you're saying it out loud to yourself that, oh, I did a good, I did well there. I did well. I have mentioned this, but I'm going to repeat it again. And this is a bit different, but this is about switching off and doing something just for you. And actually, this is a little bit different. This is a bit different to, we've talked about switching off, and we've talked about taking time out to be a part of a community or taking time out to spend time with your loved ones. But you know what? This is different, because this is about switching off and doing something completely random. And some good examples of teachers that I coach that they've shared they've done when I've encouraged this activity is one teacher just made pom-poms. She just bought like this kit. I think you could buy them in like toy shops, honestly you can, but she just sat, and it was just her time to just make pom-poms. Another teacher just bought herself a mindful colouring book and just sat and just coloured. I took to embroidery. I like positive sayings, and I just bought some really cheap t-shirts and just embroidered positive quotes on my t-shirts. So just mindless. It could be really mindless stuff that you don't have to think about, but it actually just takes you away. So it doesn't involve any talking to anybody. It doesn't involve planning anything, because sometimes that can start to act like, oh, it's all too much. So it's really, really, really important that you have something random, like a hobby that's just for you, that doesn't take any effort, but it gives you the time to switch off. Really, really important that you do that. I've kind of mentioned little sort of connotations of this when I've talked about not being consciously aware of your thoughts. So really, really important that you take time out to listen to yourself. And the best way of doing this is just to sit in silence. And that silence can be 5 minutes. What I think sometimes become the barriers for our teachers is that when you take them from this really heavy context of teaching, which is so onerous and so demanding, and then somebody comes along and says, oh no, you don't want to do that, you want to be doing it like this, you need to be more positive. It just doesn't, it's just not great advice, because you're tired, you're worn out. No one has a clue what you're going through unless they are a teacher themselves. You've got like this plethora of stuff coming at you from all different directions, and you're just like literally switching hats from being a social worker to a teacher to a leader to a parent liaison officer. It's just bonkers, isn't it? So unless you're doing the job, no one understands. So the way that I support teachers and certainly through coaching and training is to say, let's not go from let's not go from negative straight to being positive, because that doesn't work. Let's try to go from being negative to neutral. Let's just do that. Let's just be neutral about stuff. So the reason I talk about this is because for somebody who doesn't practice meditation, it can be too big a jump. It takes practice. I meditate. I've been meditating for the past 5 years. And even though I meditate and I do it on a daily basis, it is something that I have to practice. Meditation is a practice. So when you've got these millions of things going on in your head like we do as teachers, it's not easy to then suddenly say to a teacher, you really need to meditate, do you the world of good. So what I'm saying is, let's go to a neutral place, and let's then build up from that neutral place. And let's see if you can do 1 minute of meditation, 2 minutes, but actually your starting point should be just silence. You don't need to do anything. So instead of becoming a thinker of your thoughts, you become an observer of your thoughts. And that's the beauty of just sitting in silence. And if you sit just for little periods of time, and in the class, you can achieve it in the classroom. Maybe not at the moment if you've got children in bubbles staying in the classroom. I'm sure that's much harder. But on an average day, you might be able to just find 1 minute of breathing space. And that's all you need to do, just sit in silence. So you're not thinking, you're observing. Golden. It's a golden way of taking care of yourself. Eat well and stay active with movement breaks. You know, I really, really found it very difficult to go to the gym and do physical exercise on a regular basis. Like, we have this notion, don't we, as well, of what exercise should be. You know, it should be going to the gym or going to, you know, HIIT classes or whatever, but it doesn't have to be. Having time just to move in a very gentle way, like movements such as mindful movements or yoga movements or just breathing movements, you know, they just don't have to, it doesn't have to feel heavy. It can be just walking from your classroom to the photocopying room, but walking with intention, walking as if you're actually going there to get some exercise, or choosing to move around your classroom rather than staying static, because that, you know, that can happen. And again, I appreciate I might be saying things that aren't physically possible for you right now, but certainly they're things that you can start building up to. So you know, the really important thing for you all to remember here is that our physical health is directly linked to our mental health. There is that absolute connection and correlation, and they both work in tandem, and we have to look after our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health, our spiritual health, our, you know, all of those factors that make us us. So treat your body well, keep hydrated. I know it's easy to reach for all the wrong foods in school, but again, this is just going to reinforce lethargy and a feeling of not having vitality and the energy levels. You need good energy levels, you need good vitality levels to be able to sustain the challenges of what it takes to be an effective teacher in the classroom. So avoid processed foods and try your best to keep a balanced diet. See what fitness activities there are in the area, like, you know, walking, just being outdoors in the weekends. When you come home, just taking 10 minutes to just walk outside in nature, or it doesn't matter even if it's not nature, just getting out is the main thing. So just a simple routine. And the last thing that I'm going to leave you with to think about is taking the time out to look at where you are in your life. Because a lot of teachers, you know, time flies, doesn't it? Time just passes us by. And before we know, you know, a year's gone, 2 years gone. And I don't know whether it's, you know, I'm sure everybody feels like this, but I think that teachers really, really feel like this, because we just live our lives from one half term to the next, to the next, to the next. Then before we know it, academic years just whiz by, and we just feel like, where did that time go? And I think for that reason, don't lose yourself in this, you know, in this being a teacher and being this hero and being everybody for everyone else. Don't lose yourselves. Stay motivated, and you know, stay aligned with your life's purpose. And I'm sure part of that life purpose is to teach the children and make a difference to their lives, of course. But actually, in that, what about you? You must have goals. You must have ambitions. You must want to travel places, do things. Don't lose sight of those. Stay motivated by setting yourself some goals. Really important. So take time out to look at where you are, what you would like to achieve in your life, and really keep an eye on the bigger picture. So when you're doing the day-to-day, when you're doing the half term to the end of term to the next half term, where is it that you see yourself in the biggest, you know, in the big picture? And what steps can you take so that you're taking some, whether it's small steps or big steps, but you're taking some steps towards achieving some of those bigger goals that don't involve anybody at school. They're just for you. So I'm just going to recap there. Build positive relationships and be part of a community. Find ways to balance your workload with the priorities of your workload. Prioritise rest and sleep well. Give yourself credit and reward yourself with the things that matter to you. Switch off and do something fun, which is just a hobby just for you. Take the time out to listen to yourself. So that time, 1 minute silence time, golden just for you. Eat well and keep active with movement breaks, and set future goals to stay motivated. Okay, that's it from me. I hope that you have really taken some of these words of advice that I have, and I have been in the profession for over 20 years. I do work with lots of teachers. These self-care tips are golden, and I would urge you and encourage you that if there were ever a time to look after yourself, it is absolutely now. I hope that you found it useful. Thank you very much for listening to me, and if there's anything I can do to serve you, to help you, then please get in touch. Thank you very much, Jackie, for inviting me on this evening. Take care, everybody. Good night.